down to Fair Game Beverage.
Pour out the whiskey, and it's just so extraordinary. It's so dark. It's so complex. It's so, like, just accidentally, beautifully aged. You could say I was uniquely unqualified for this job. You could say that. But, you know, I've been in it long enough that I took a big swing at food and beverage, and I'm not the neophyte that I once was. In fact, now I'm like, you can call me King Daddy Food and Beverage if you want.
I'm Allan Cogan. Join me as I highlight small businesses with interviews on site at distilleries, breweries, and more. My mission is to share the stories of the awesome people behind the craft. Welcome to Crafted Conversations. Well, Lyle, thank you so much for having me here at Fair Game.
Oh, well, thanks for coming.
Yeah, I as you know, I'm new to the North Carolina area, well, fairly new, and I've seen you on social media and when I've done doing some just peripheral research of where I should hit up next. And I haven't had the time. I have a 1-year-old at home and I've been trying to make the rounds. So I'm glad I could finally make it work and come out here and see your really cool space. So thank you. It really is cool.
Well, yeah, thanks for coming. We're down here at the plant in Pittsboro. Fair Game's kind of an anchor of the plant.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of different craft makers of things here. The Starlight Mead is here, and BMC Brewing's across the street, and Hemp Smith has got a little atelier doing clothing out front, and so there's like 20 different sort of locally owned businesses down here at the end of Lorax Lane in Pittsboro, North Carolina, which actually happens to be one of the fastest growing towns on Earth.
I saw that somewhere.
I'm not making that up. It's
that's
like
cool.
Disney just bought a big chunk of Pittsboro, North Carolina, to build their town.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. So we're on the edge of this gigantic explosion of human beings in Pittsboro, right out here on this side of Jordan Lake. It's like Cary and Apex are jumping across the lake, and they're going to blow this town up. From 5,000 people, it's scheduled to go to 80,000. That's our current trajectory.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Well, hopefully they like drinking spirits.
Well, I mean, that's it. So it's a double-edged sword, right? I've lived here 35 years, and on the one hand, I mourn the loss of tree canopy. And we're flooding now, right? It's
yeah.
Like, well, yeah, you cut down all the trees, you flood. It's not rocket science. Anyway, but then again, the newcomers, they're the people that are finding their way down to the plant. So they are the hand that feeds me.
Yes.
And so it's strange. It's a strange time and strange place. This was my busted biodiesel plant, by the way. The whole place was this is my busted. I came here in 2005 and bought a Cold War teardown on the edge of Pittsboro.
Wow.
17-acre barbed wire fence, Cold War. We're talking like hinge ceilings. So when you have an explosion, the roof goes up and falls back down into place. Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, it was this Stranger Things, on the edge of town. It was covered in poison ivy and possums. And I bought it to put in my biodiesel plant. And we put up 1 million gallon a year biodiesel plant. So this place used to rumble and hum, okay? And so anyway, that didn't work. I lost my shirt in biodiesel. And the Fair Game Beverage Company popped up across the street. And just as I was tearing biodiesel down, they were looking for a new direction, Well, basically, hey, Lyle, we lost our distiller, we lost our tasting room operator, we lost our outside guy, and there's no money in the bank. You looking for a job? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take a job. Because what was happening is, what was once this industrial, like, vacant lot, literally, overgrown, like, you could just see it started shifting over to, like, we're going from steel toes to stilettos.
Sure.
at the plant and via Fair Game Beverage. The year's 2013. 2013, the Fair Game Beverage Company is born. Plant starts in 2005. So, what happened was we were rising from the, anyway, turning the ship around. That basically the customer is that way. And so what happened was, I don't know, busted biodiesel plant, little eco-industrial park, and then the world's biggest real estate development breaks out on your head. And you just kind of turn to meet them. And Starlight Mead moved in. That's the other thing. Starlight Mead moved in. And like I started seeing people like carrying little glass bottles in little bags to their Lexus, carrying cases to the, and it was like, So we've been turning to face the consumer, I think, is really the big Fair Game story. And so we used to do a lot of work in Whole Foods and ABC and bars and restaurants and so on and so forth. So we did have an established brand in that channel, but really couldn't make a go of it. So we've turned and pivoted to the plant, and we're now selling everything in the yard, almost everything. I'm still required to sell to them when they order it. Right. But turned away. We turned our back on the whole channel, the whole ABC channel, the whole bars. I mean, I said goodbye to 150 ABC boards. I said goodbye to, 750 bars and restaurants. And it's like, no, we're going to sell our bottles in the yard, and we're going to sell cocktails in the yard, and we're going to do it here at the plant. And we sort of really, became like a destination distillery, or maybe an estate distillery, if you will, because that's the other thing that we have a lot of fun with. We use chestnuts off of the trees in the yard. We use pears. We use, we juiced, 600 pounds of pears this year.
Holy cow. From
the yard, literally. Like apple trees are next. We'll be dropping a, hard apple cider in the fall, first opening day of apple brandy season, which, by the way, that's a product that we are probably most famous for is our apple brandy. That's what we're probably best known for. And the reason is astonishing in that I think we were probably the only apple brandy on the shelf in North Carolina, or maybe the land, that just is just made from one thing, and that's
apples.
Yeah.
Right. Well, as a Wisconsinite, I'm glad that you're making brandy, because there aren't. I've come across this as I've done this show, that brandy usually is just one of those like fun side projects for a lot of distilleries, and usually they aren't very economical.
Yeah, that's right. They're crazy.
Yeah, but it's like, man, there's a market there for brandy, because I think Korbel still accounts for like the majority of the sales in the United States.
I think that's absolutely right. And there's also times when, I think Laird's gave North Carolina a pass.
Yes.
So there were many years with no Laird's on the shelf. And so I think during that period, we came in and we're probably like, we can knock Calvados off the shelf in terms of the quality experience. And not sure about price anymore. We used to be a $29 product. It's now a $120 product. And anyway, it has moved to more of a side hustle than than whiskey and some of the other things we do. It's become a less important thing to us. But you talk about expensive to make, absolutely. And you talk about rare and hard. Yeah. But yeah.
I absolutely love. I mean, kind of backing up to what you were describing about the place and where this exists. Driving into Pittsboro, I've been through Pittsboro. I haven't spent too much time in Pittsboro, but driving down this street to here, it feels very unassuming. And then I show up, and it's like this. You have this little colony back here of a bunch of little businesses doing things. I'm sure you guys are all friends and work off each other. It's really cool to see that, and it really plays into the craft story. And we were talking to me a little bit about off camera of all the things that you make and why you do it, and the things on the land that you use. I mean, talk about how much pride is in that. Well, you actually get to touch and feel and have that tactile TLC to make your product.
Well, okay. There is, I suppose there's probably some ego in that. I think so. Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. I mean, what happened here was we went long on perennials.
Okay.
Basically, that's the thing. Okay, I was okay. So I've been in the local food movement since before the local food movement existed. The very early discussions of what does a local food shed even look like when no one's even heard the word were happening here.
Right.
When we were a biodiesel operation, when we were on the cutting edge of sustainability, and all the sustainability freaks were hanging out at the plant. Those were the conversations. So I've been on the front row of sustainable agriculture for the last 35 years. I've invested in, I think, 7 different farm projects. And what I've noticed is they all go into annuals because they're all broke, or they need that sweet potato to come out of the ground so they can have that crop so they can make it through, until the next season, right?
Right.
And so I looked at that and I'm like, well, farming for money is different from farming with money. So why don't we just put in some blueberries over there? And who cares? Like, the deer are going to get them and the crows are going to get them, and we'll never get a blueberry crop, and who cares? Why don't you put in some plums and then do some pears and do some apples and chestnuts and pecans, and here we go, figs. And all right, bang. And now what's happening is and chestnuts, I'm going to have over 100 pounds of chestnut fruit that we are going to have to crank through. Like I will buy and consume 100 pounds, and give you a sense of that. New York City cup of greasy chestnuts on the street, you're talking like 1/8 of a pound or something like that.
Right.
It's a lot of, it's a lot of materials handling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of picking up. It's a lot of shelling. It's a lot. Okay.
Holy
Anyway,
cow.
The point is that now we're into hundreds and hundreds, we're into hundreds of pounds of stuff. And the blueberries are actually in volume, and the blueberries, they go up to the farmer's market and sell out in, 15 minutes. It's like pounds of blueberries blow through the till, just because, and they're just picked on the vines down in the yard and taken up and sold in the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a hyper local. The food miles on that blueberry is about a quarter mile, not even quarter mile if you had to walk back to the cooler. Anyway, the idea is, so all of this has just started piling in on us. We've got this, we went into perennials, and now the perennials are on and they're dropping. And that drives a lot of the innovation around here, because it also has that connection to the customer.
Right.
And that connection to the customer. And I mean, a lot of people have never pulled a blueberry off the vine and popped it into their mouth, except for there's going to be generations that have done it down here at the plant.
Sure.
It's like we've got berry patches, and we've got pepper patches, and we've got pawpaw patch, and and so we've got these things that people experience. Sort of demonstration farming or something, ingredient farming.
There you go.
That's what it is. We have an accidental ingredient farm, and this is not done with any intention. This is just like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have something edible in the landscape? Yeah, let's do that. And boom, in goes 11 blueberry bushes. Well, 11 blueberry bushes at the age of 15 is actually a lot of fruit.
I was going to say.
You're paying people to pick, and you can pick, every day you can pick. It's a lot of blueberries.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be so cool even that the customer gets to see that you have that. I mean, you say that it's not intentional, but boy, what a happy mistake.
I think that's right.
You know what I mean?
I think that's right. Now, Fair Game has always been committed to local ingredients. So,
sure.
So our apples for apple brandy, they're coming out of Hendersonville, and we're buying exclusively North Carolina apples, and that's it. And so it is in Fair Game's DNA. The plant DNA and the Fair Game DNA are linked,
sure.
Inextricably linked together.
Well, I appreciate that, because craft more than ever has been focusing more on, owning your market, owning your corner of the world, and being more sustainable, finding more economical ways to do, obviously farm to glass is much more prevalent than it ever has been. They're popping up all over the place. Yeah. If you can grow your own wheat and rye and corn, you can make your own whiskey. Yeah. But one of the things I love more about that is that it gives you some more room and space and time and resources to play and have fun.
Oh yeah, that's true. We do have fun.
I can tell your branding and your place here is a really cool spot that doesn't feel like a stuffy speakeasy that's hoity-toity.
Well, you know what? We're trying to be like the county fair.
Okay.
Okay, so we're trying to be like the county fair. You'll see it in our labels. Flying Pepper Vodka is a roller coaster, and we're trying to be, so that's the big top. And I don't know if you get footage of the shop. That's kind of the what fair game. That's we're trying to be like an old-fashioned county fair, and that's where the branding kind of hails from.
I love that. So does biodiesel making translate into the chemistry of making spirits? Or how did that?
Well,
I know they came to you to
all
say,
right,
"Hey, come do it."
No, I mean, okay.
Can we sample some?
I'm gonna say, okay. First of all, what is the commonality between biodiesel and making spirits? Well, I guess one, you're moving liquids around. Okay, so that's plumbing. That's pumps. That's okay. So you're moving liquids around.
Sure.
The big difference is we're moving big liquids around. We're doing 7,500 gallons going through like a 300 gallon per minute pump, and over here you're doing 750 milliliter bottles instead of 7,500 gallon trucks. Like it's but you're still, the scales are different, but it is chemistry,
right?
And it is moving liquids around, and it is pumps and seals and gaskets and that kind of stuff. Okay, and forklifts, and there's a commonality there, but the scale was so different. We attempted to do some distillation at Piedmont Biofuels, and we were unsuccessful at it. We definitely put up distillation columns, and what we were trying to do was dry methanol. Okay, but that's a tricky one. Okay, that drying methanol, so we had a waste methanol side stream that came out. Now we're talking like 10,000 gallon,
right?
A barrel of whiskey, 53 gallons, and I'll sell 2 barrels a year. Do you know what I mean? It's
right.
like we're into hundreds of gallons, tens of thousands of gallons.
Right.
And anyway, I don't think we had enough BTUs. I don't think we didn't throw enough firepower into it. Didn't have enough. Our boiler, I don't think, had the muscle that we needed. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is we never successfully dried methanol. We built a little biorefinery, and we did refine some products, and we did do some distillation. But that's not the same as like running the still and making cuts, and then it's also not food and beverage. That's the other thing is food and beverage is its own sort of quirky kind of industry with its own foibles and its own preferences and stuff like that.
Right.
And so one, you're a chemical plant selling to oil companies, and biodiesel, it's a replacement for diesel fuel. So instead of getting an 18-wheeler of diesel, you get an 18-wheeler of biodiesel, right? You come and burn it. Versus, a little craft distillery. There's not a lot of commonality.
You're not.
You could say I was uniquely unqualified for this job. You could say that. But I've been in it long enough that I took a big swing at food and beverage, and I'm not the neophyte that I once was. In fact, now I'm like, you can call me King Daddy Food and Beverage if you want. That's what they call me in downtown Durham.
I hope that's in your signature block.
Yeah. No. So anyway, so we've been at it a while, and but you're right. The plate fullness that allows with let's try a plum this or let's try a peach that is an exciting thing, and it's a fun part of this business.
Well, and I think that having a different background than distilling from the get-go, I think offers more to your creativeness to do different things because you don't know what doesn't work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Like, for instance, when I made a rye whiskey, okay? And so here I am, right? It's like Mr. Hyperlocal. Oh, the rye is grown in Mebane. Okay, now we're gonna harvest it in Mebane. We're gonna ship it over to Durham. We're gonna get Epiphany over there to Sebastian. He's gonna malt it for us. Okay, now it's malted at Durham. Now the malt comes down here to BMC Brewer across the street. They've got the grinder, and it's like John makes the wash.
Right.
Okay, and then the wash comes in here, and I load the still, and it walloped me. It just crushed me. It's like it bubbled over. It was like lively. It was hard to handle. It was like nothing I'd ever like worked on before, because everything I've ever done has been malt. So I kind of got walloped by rye, and I made like probably the lowest yielding rye whiskey, in the history of whiskey. And I packed a barrel and I threw it on the wall, and I wanted to forget about it. And I was hoping that I would forget about it. But anyway, now the years have gone by and it's time to crack the rye, and I pull it off the wall, and we start doing our tastings, and we're buying, different ryes and doing our comparisons and stuff. And George comes along. George works here. He's a distiller that was with Top of the Hill. And Top of the Hill was a early distiller in this craft business. They were a groundbreaking Scott Maitland and Company, founded the Distillers Guild.
Sure.
Started agitating for legislative gains and stuff like that. So anyway, they're gone. They're dead and gone. They got sold for scrap. But anyway, George works here. And George has made a lot of whiskey, and he's made a lot of spirits, and he has spent a life. He was a brewer. He was in, he knows his stuff inside and out. And he's also Mr. Big Palate. So he's the guy that can tell you about leathery undertones on the back of the, blah, blah, blah.
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
So he's one of those guys. And George says to me, well, you didn't use 100% rye in the rye bill, did you? Like, no one would do in the grain bill. No one would do that. You wouldn't do 100% rye. And I'm like, yeah, I did 100% rye. Why? What are you talking about? And it's like, normally when you're making a rye, you whack the ryeness out of it to make it easier to handle. Like, you come back and cut it with malt or rice or anything to make it a little bit more manageable than 100%. So anyway, that's the thing. So yeah, my lack of background, it made a wonderful rye whiskey that we're going to be dropping in the next, I don't know, before New Year's, before the next full moon, we'll have a rye whiskey out maybe.
Okay. Oh, I love that. And to be fair, I have had 100% rye before, and they are fantastic. Yeah. I've also had 100% malted rye. And those are fantastic as well. I love the malty notes of. That's what this would be. This would be 100% malted rye. Okay, so I'm very excited then. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I have to come back now. Yeah, right. Twist my arm. Yeah. Were you a connoisseur, if you will, of spirits and beverages before you got in? Like, are you a whiskey guy before you got into this? Did you have any kind of preconceived? Yeah, I had certainly drank some whiskey. I would say I was not a connoisseur. I was a beer drinker. I'm from Canada. So I was a two-fisted beer drinker as a young man. And I would say that, but no, I wouldn't say, I do know my whiskey very well now. So I've been making whiskey, and I've definitely walked into the world of whiskey, and I do enjoy whiskey, and I do drink whiskey with way more regularity than I used to. Sure. I'm not sure that's a good thing. I'm not sure that that's the best idea I've ever heard, but it is something that I like. I think, what happens is your taste buds die, and as your taste buds decline, your relationship to whiskey goes up. That's why little kids can't have hot sauce, right? Your 18-month-old can just taste this explosion of flavors that you and I would look at as bland because your taste buds are in decline. Right. And so, a lot of my whiskey experience was probably in high school, which would have made it kind of an unpleasant whiskey experience. And then also the high school years, or that time where you're just learning your way around alcohol in the first place, right? That's when you don't quite know your limits and have it all figured out, right? Yep. And it's also usually the cheapest stuff. And it tends to be cheap. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And with the worst hangovers. Malt liquor. Let's go get a malt liquor. Yeah. So. I always love to hear different backgrounds and people who are either brewers or chemists or whoever they came from, who have now jumped into the space of actually making the product, because I feel like because of that, there is more care put into the product because you're not a big corporation with PowerPoints. You're here. You're Lyle. I talk to you, and there's that accessibility is. I wish I was a little more corporate. I could use some more PowerPoints. I got to say, so this isn't all me. Our apple brandy came from Chris June. He was the original distiller.
And he was a forward-thinking connoisseur. The company at that time, though, was more actively involved in like ports and sherries and fortified wines and stuff like that. But the commitment to craft and the commitment to local ingredients and the that definitely came, was channeled through the DNA of the company into me when I took it over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good. That's the point of.
So I'm a connoisseur now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I got to ask you, what's the favorite thing that you make? What is your?
Okay. Let's see. On the lineup here, I would say that my cherry. Here's what I've got. I got a. I haven't got a label approval on it, but I'm calling it Wild Forage Cherry, and it's a malt whiskey. It's been on a barrel for 5 years, oak barrel.
Okay.
And it is then finished on some heart of cherry charred wood.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Let me just. I'm gonna grab one real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So what you do is you take the cherry wood and you basically get it down to the heart, right? So you don't want the tannins. You don't want the if you had a sort of a cookie of cherry wood, it would have the sort of this sort of layer of bark, mold and fungus and decay.
Sure.
Okay? So you want to get to the heart of the wood. You get just to the heart of the wood, and then you dehydrate it. You get all the moisture out of it, and then you char it. Okay, and then you take these and you fill a decanter, and you bury it in like 5-year-old, 6-year-old malt whiskey. And what you take off is this, which is what I call a wild foraged cherry.
So this is 100% malt.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Isn't that nice?
I love that. That's very good.
It's very interesting. So at one point I came out with my wild foraged walnut and a wild foraged cherry. And,
Yeah.
And I've got a sycamore whiskey that I make, which is, again, I'm basically tank finishing it on charred sycamore wood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, those are the things that I like. You would never even hear of a sycamore unless you didn't or craft didn't exist.
You know what? Okay, there's a restaurant in town called the Sycamore.
Okay.
And they got a great big sycamore tree out in front. Okay, and it's a fancy restaurant. It's like white linen tablecloth restaurant, right?
Sure.
Sort of steakhouse, like,
Okay.
Upscale. And anyway, they came down the lane and I made a whiskey for them. And we sat around and we had some chestnut and we had some malt and we had this. And they brought the bartender and the owner and the owner's wife and, whatever. It was like sisters and friends. They filled the place. We made notes and made a whiskey for them. Okay. And at one point in the conversation, someone says, "Hey, have you ever done one on sycamore, like on the wood?" And it's like, "No, I have not." So I went out on Etsy, bought some sycamore, brought it in, dehydrated, and did a little experiment. And it's like, wow, it turns out there's actually a lot of sugar in sycamore wood. Okay. So the different wood profiles, like the cherry and the maple, and like they all have different sugar profiles in the woods.
Right.
And then when you char them, you end up sort of carbonizing, those sugars. It's almost like an ion exchange where the char will hold back, act as a filter aid.
Right.
It'll pull an impurity out and return a sugar.
Sure.
And so it changes the complexion of the whiskey entirely.
That's wild.
I know.
I love experiments like that. I'm kind of curious, is there anything that you have on the docket that you want to try or haven't had the ability to or haven't had access to it? Like some wild wazoo thing would. Sycamore to me feels wazoo. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think this is my first year in the liqueur business. And I think that the liqueur, we've got house-made liqueurs that are going like a rocket. We can't, it's super small batch production, right? We're talking like 3 cases, 6 cases, little, except they go so fast that it's the first time in my life I haven't been dusting bottles, So it's like,
that's good.
Exactly. Sell your shares in bottle dusters, because I'm going to have to sell my shares in bottle dusters now that we've got the liqueur program. And so the seasonality of that, the fruit comes off the tree, the process, the thing gets made, it goes out the door in super limited batches. And now it's like, you didn't get one. It's like, we'll do them again next year when the pawpaw's back in season.
Hey y'all, Allan Cogan here with Crafted Conversations. If you want to support the show and the mission of sharing the stories of craft, head over to buymeacoffee.com/craftedcombos. I'd really appreciate throwing a couple bucks my way to help me pay for travel, the equipment that I use, the time that I spend editing, all the software that I use. I really appreciate any support you can give me. And if you can't afford a couple bucks, at least give me some feedback, or go over to your YouTube and subscribe or follow us on Spotify. Anything helps to make sure that we share the story of craft and give these small business owners a little limelight and get them out on a platform that really showcases what they're doing. I can't do this without you guys or your support, so I would really appreciate you pitching in and helping out. So I'll see you out there, and I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Is there any interest in scaling that? Are you like,
I don't know.
Because I wonder it always makes it so daunting to me as someone who maybe down the road would like to start a distillery or something, where that calculus of like, what sells. Like bourbon is king, cool. But then your liqueurs sell out really fast. So should you pivot your resources to do just that and make more of it? Should you get a bigger still? All the things.
Yeah.
Is that to me, that feels so hard to calculate.
Yeah, no, it's murder. I mean, it is. No, so scale is everything, right? And the thing is, getting the scale right is the problem, right? It's not that small is better. It's not that big is better. It's about having the right scale for the right, everything in the right scale, right? And when things get out of that, like, if you start taking too many oak trees to make too many barrels, it's like, do that at your peril.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's kind of, I think small business is probably a quest for scale. And some successfully scale up, and some try to scale up and fail. Yeah. We've operated at different scales. I was in Whole Foods for a while. I put a bullet in Whole Foods. It's hard to get into Whole Foods.
Yeah.
But put a bullet in Whole Foods. Put a bullet in ABC. Well, what are you doing? It's like, well, it's about a quest for scale, and putting 1,000 bottles into storage in ABC, and then getting the checks in as they draw down on it through the system. Trying to generate enough pull on the other side of this strange, mysterious trading partner.
Right.
Very, very, very difficult.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and so, and we don't have any winners yet. Like in North Carolina, like there isn't a single craft distillery that you would point to and go, wow, look at those guys, they crushed it, they killed it. They're like, we're still waiting for that ball over the fence, right? Yep. Now, what have you got? Maybe High West in Salt Lake City might be in the craft, but I mean, there's not a lot of, $100 million takeouts to report. Maybe, I don't know where you want to put Tito's, but at the end of the day, the idea of scale and craft is like, I think that's always going to be a complicated relationship.
100%. And that's why I think it's very important more than ever to own your corner of the world and maybe not try to sell to California.
That's right. No, I mean, that's exactly right. And in North Carolina, the trend you'll find, since you're, basically a distillery journalist, you're going to find that everyone in craft distillation in North Carolina is also like trying to do something else, which means they're either trying to get into other states where the market penetration is easier. They're headed to Illinois, Florida, California, anything. Okay. Or they are becoming a wedding venue, or they are, opening a tree museum, or they are, doing something that becoming a destination. It's like, well, for us to pivot into being a destination and in some ways an estate distillery, right? So, in wines, an estate wine,
Yeah.
it's the vintner is caring for the fruit, doing the ferment, bottling the wine, and many people only want to drink estate wines, right? Because of presumably the care provided throughout the whole chain, right? Rather than just go buy your jugs of juice and pitch your yeast and whammo, you two can make a wine, right? And so in some ways, we're starting to look a little bit more like an estate distillery. Now, we don't do the grain farming though. That's the other thing. I don't have any way to grow grains at all. So I buy grains from the local grain shed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know there's a few North Carolina distilleries that are they're also farms.
Yeah, Mystic's doing that.
Mystic's doing that. Yeah. Broad Slab.
Yeah, Broad Slab. Yeah, know those guys. Yeah,
both great. I've interviewed both of them.
Yeah,
and it's cool, but they also are they have a destination. It's a place,
right?
And which is, I mean, as a business, obviously you have to pay the bills, and that makes sense. I bet it would be great if we could just kind of just experiment and play and drink and have a great time, but you have to pay the bills and sell the things and whatever. And I'm always curious to see, like, if you've done all these experiments, but things fail, but they taste great, but they don't sell, that must hurt, but also you learn because the market doesn't want it, or you know what I mean? It's tough.
I mean, it's really interesting. Fair Game has released a lot of innovative products. Some of them, very hard to sell, and some of them very, fortified wines, a whole bunch of fortified wines, fortified peach, fortified blackberry. Whew, scuppernong. There's been lots of like dead ends, blind alleys, mistakes, just dumb marketing ideas, bad labels, bad names. You can kind of name it. It's not amazing that we continue to shoot ourselves in the foot. It's how fast we reload.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I want that on a T-shirt.
Well, I think I saw that on a bumper sticker somewhere. But yeah, no, the idea is we've been at this since 2013. We've learned a lot of things, and we pivoted into what we're doing right now, which is starting to take the shape of an estate distillery, which is kind of, I think, an interesting concept. But yeah, and so I don't know. We've got we have more wins than losses on the product front in terms of happy accidents. So one of them was administrative error. We did a batch of whiskey called administrative error.
I love that.
Okay. But what it was we also make we got vinegars. I do a vinegar program.
Cool.
So I make shrubs, and we've got a fig balsamic. We're on our way to a balsamic vinegar program.
That's cool.
Okay, except I'm barrel aging, which means forget it, pal. I'm probably 12 years out before I'm going to have anything that probably is good enough to even call balsamic.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about, there's balsamic, and then there's, my vinegar program,
right? Which
is interesting because what it does is because our, balsamic is so weak, it allows the color to come through. Balsamic's always this dark brown, beautiful,
right?
Thick, because it's been aging so long, right? And so you get a younger vinegar. It's more pourable and more, So anyway, I take a vinegar. I think, well, what if I took some malt whiskey off the wall and I put it into a little 2.5 gallon vinegar barrel? And I'm just doing it so that I can get a wet barrel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off the wall. I'm going to put it right here. And then I'm going to tell the kids that run the tasting room, hey, just draw down on this barrel in bulk, measure it out, tax gets paid, all that. And when you're done, I get a little 2.5 gallon wet whiskey barrel. And I take my wet whiskey barrel that's been aging whiskey for a month, 2-3 months. Okay. And then I'm going to pack it with vinegar. And I'm going to see what I get.
Sure.
All right. So now that's going on over here, and the kids don't get the memo. And so, like, I don't know, a year goes by, and someone's like, what is this? What is this barrel doing here? boom. Oh, someone go get Lyle. It's like, oh, that's what that is. Oh, I thought you. Oh man, okay, that's gonna be my wet barrel. We pour out the whiskey, and it's just so extraordinary. It's so dark. It's so complex. It's so like just accidentally, beautifully aged.
Yeah.
Just and it's only like 2.5 cases or something like that, right?
Right.
It's a
exclusive.
or maybe no, actually 2.5 gallons would be 1 case on the nose, I think.
Okay.
Five bottles to a gallon. So anyway, the idea is anyway, we called it administrative error, and it's just bang, went through the till faster than any whiskey that we'd ever had. And yeah, we don't know how to make it anymore because we don't even know actually how long it sat there.
Well, and then I think that plays into the market too, is that exclusivity and that specialness of.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's why I love craft too, is that every batch you do will be different.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
by definition. You aren't Jim Beam doing
That's
a
right.
perfect exact every time.
That's right.
So if you have a fan base or people who are local or even travelers who come through here and your batch 1 is great and they come back on a trip to visit family a year later and you have batch 3 out, I have to have it because I loved your batch 1. But it's different.
Yeah.
So I think that exclusivity plays into the market as well, which
Without
is
a
fun
doubt.
to play with.
Without a doubt. I think that's it. And of course, the faster, again, if you hit that scale right, you want to hit it at the right price and the right turn, right? It's about time.
Yep.
And if you can get all of it, it feels great when it just like shoots through the till and it's like, oh, that was a hit record. And now it's done.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is it doesn't stay in the charts for 6 months.
Right. Right.
And I didn't know it was going to be a hit record. Right? That's the problem. We're just singer-songwriters here. We didn't know it was going to go in the charts.
Yeah. Oh, and then before you know it, you only have 5 bottles.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's gone. No, I know. We sell out all the time.
Well, and that's like I feel as like my ego, if I was a maker and I made something that was so freaking good, I would want to keep 1 bottle for myself to just be like, on the nicest of occasions, for my friends of like the highest level of my friendships, we got to try this. But like, I also want to sell it. You know what I mean? That's tough because now there's only 4 bottles.
No, I did some of that in the early days of whiskey. I started doing that. And the thing I realized is by the time I got up to batch 13, I can't believe I even saved that bottle of batch 5 because the 13 was so much better.
Right.
And so and there is a market on Fair Games whiskey, which, it's $100 for a bottle when you buy it through the till. And there's an aftermarket for it. So you can also buy Fair Game, in the aftermarket, the illegal aftermarket, for $250 a bottle. And the guys that are playing the game because they come in and they buy a case without tasting.
Sure. Isn't that wild?
It's just like customer walks in, buys a case of whiskey, walks back, throws it in the trunk of his car and drives away. Why? Because he's going to sit on it for 6 months and he's going to sell it he's going to make more money on my whiskey than I do.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah. Yep.
And so he's going to go flip it. Now, I guess the thing is he's got a better chance of going to jail than I do.
That's fair.
We're legal.
When I was living in the DC area, DC is not controlled, but Virginia is.
Yeah.
And there was always a part of my brain was like, I feel like I want to go to DC liquor stores, or not DC liquor, go to Virginia liquor stores and buy a bottle of Buffalo Trace at market value, and then go to DC and sell it. And
DC is Wild West.
It's like,
no,
my
DC
God.
DC is Wild West of liquor.
It really is.
Yeah.
And what's a shame about that too is that they don't have as many distilleries or makers as you'd think they would.
That's true.
They don't have even a classification for what a distillery is. The last person I talked to, and unfortunately went out of business, was District 8. In District 8, it was Alex Laufer, great guy. He was on the podcast or on the early days. They made amazing rye. It was district-made rye. And he sold it off at some point, but to all his barrels. But he was classified as a deli. Because DC doesn't have the legislation to dictate whatever is.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like that's.
And a lot of the online guys are out of DC as well.
Yes.
So a lot of North Carolina craft product at one point was flowing into DC because the guys in DC weren't afraid to list it and sell it
Right.
On Amazon or whatever, right? They're moving it through the ether, which is, it's fine. But when those bottles find their way back into North Carolina, suddenly it's the distiller who gets popped, and it's the distiller breaking the law because someone was able to buy their apple brandy on an online site.
Right.
And so it's a very challenging space. When you were setting up your camera, I was saying it's North Carolina, beer gets treated like a food, and wine gets treated like a sacrament, and spirits are the devil.
Yeah.
According to the state.
Well, and what's always been fascinating for when I talk to people on the show is one being from Wisconsin, where it is a little bit more Wild West, but also just the hurdles that
big beer.
Big beer.
And I would guess Wisconsin, with your big beer industry, it's probably got a better, like, the brewers relationship. There you're going to have a state that profits from alcohol and the alcohol industry.
You probably would get voted out of office on either side of the aisle if you did any kind of legislation that hurt the beer industry.
Yeah, well, down here,
or the cheese industry.
No, in North Carolina, we chase the moonshiners, right? We chase the bootleggers, and we make them build faster cars, and we run them into the holler, and we burn down their stills, and we
right.
and so. It's a different relationship to alcohol than the Midwest. And also, you start getting into Milwaukee, you get into that. First of all, you got some lake effect. You got grayness. You have a belt of grayness that goes across the whole globe, where alcohol consumption is much higher.
Right.
So people drink sweet tea down here.
Yes.
Whereas in Cleveland, Buffalo, Detroit, Canada, it's beer drinking country.
100%.
Well,
it's also session. So I forget who I was talking to about this, but the state drink of Wisconsin is a old fashioned, Wisconsin brandy old fashioned, and it's really simple. It's sure, it's not like a fancy, like a East Coast fancy old fashioned, like a classic old fashioned. This is more so like a session drink, because when you're at a tavern and it's cold out and you're going to be there all night watching the Packers play or the Brewers play, you're going to have 6 or 7. But if you had 6 or 7 like traditional old fashions or Manhattans, you're going to be hammered. So you have to have a session drink where it's in a highball and it's diluted with a bunch of 7-Up and simple syrup. Yeah. So it's basically an old fashioned made with 7-Up and some brandy for some sweetness, and a cherry and a maraschino cherry and an orange and a sugar cube, and there you go.
Wow.
And it's like, that's meant because our culture is, hey, it's cold as hell.
Yes.
And our culture is this, and we're going to be at a tavern with a fish fry all night.
Right.
I'm not just coming here for a nice little drink and leaving.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. And I also think it's interesting to see how that culture varies across the market, because then it makes business decisions. Distilleries in Wisconsin have a very different market to play with. They can make brandy because people want brandy. Uh-huh. North Carolina doesn't really make brandy because why would people make brandy? Uh-huh. People don't buy it.
I know. So, in the early days of Fair Game, this was, an argument that was put forward, and that is the original cocktail list, the Manhattan, was an apple brandy drink. Because there weren't fields of whiskey.
Sure.
Basically, the settlers get off with a handful of apple seeds. Apples, the first source of sugar in the colonies in volume. They take their apples, and so everyone's drinking Applejack, and the whole world is, a Manhattan. That's an apple brandy drink, and this one's an apple brandy drink, and they're just all apple brandy drinks. Okay, but then of course the fields get plowed and cleared, and the forests fall down, and the next thing you know, the grains come on, and then America gets into grains. And so as you move west and you get out into, like, Pennsylvania was whiskey country, and it was like, the grains come on, and then that kind of became America's spirit, is whiskey, right? So, all the nations, the Russians have their vodka, and the Brits have their gin, and America kind of has its whiskey, and it's grain-based. And so apple brandy would be completely eclipsed in the story of American spirits. Now, while that all may be true, it means that you have more people that walk in the door asking for a whiskey than walking in the door asking for an apple brandy. And so, the path to perdition is like littered with having to educate the consumer.
Right. Another T-shirt that I want to wear.
The consumer wants a whiskey. Here's an idea, guys. Get him a whiskey.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Don't tell him he's dumb because he should be drinking apple brandy.
Don't you care about American history?
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, I've actually been heartened by a lot more places that are popping up doing rum exclusively, because rum is early American colonial history.
Sure.
That built into rye, which is early American whiskey history. And it kind of makes, I love my bourbon, but bourbon is pretty late in the game when it comes to American history of spirits. Bourbon wasn't actually bourbon until the 1830s.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I don't know that. I don't make a bourbon. I don't like bourbon. I mean, I don't know if you can even say that. I'm in North Carolina. Okay, we're in the shadow of Kentucky. The word bourbon and whiskey is interchangeable in this state. Okay,
Yes.
just like when you go up to Canada, they use the word rye, meaning whiskey, and you can go out with your brother and drink bourbon all night long in Toronto, and go home, and the next day he says, "Yeah, I was out drinking rye with my brother last night." You know, it's actually in the vocabulary. It's woven into the language. So
Sure.
down here, bourbon is whiskey.
Yeah.
But I find corn very forward. I like a Pilsner rather than an IPA. I like a malt whiskey better than I like a bourbon. And we make a malt whiskey, and I don't make bourbon. I think also there's another thing there is I'm probably trying to stay out of everybody's way, because everybody makes a bourbon down here.
That's another thing I was going to say, is that I think it's important. Like, I want more differentiation. Like, if you made a bourbon, it'd probably be great. Cool, but everyone does it.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it and it's not a product that you would enjoy making because you're just making it because, then why make it?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So anyway, I'm trying to stay out of the way of the bourbon guys. And yeah, by the way, I watched your segment on Mystic, and those guys are my heroes. Like, Jonathan Blitz is my hero. You know, I don't know if I watched the entire thing, but did he tell you on camera that he's the only guy that ever took ABC to court and won?
Briefly, yeah.
Good,
He didn't go into
okay.
details, but yeah.
He handed them their head, is what he did.
Yeah.
He's the first person in the history of the world to do it. So
See,
my hat is off to Jonathan Blitz and the boys at Mystic. I know them both. I know
great.
Michael a little bit less, but the idea is that was a good segment.
Thank you.
On Mystic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm staying out of Mystic's way. I'm going to go malt.
There you go. Well, and this, they're doing great stuff. Great people. And again, another testament to having a background that isn't distilling, but in law, that helps you navigate those barriers that you don't know about when you start a distillery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I malt is something that I'm so curious at what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years, because bourbon's king. It always will be. It just is what it is. Rye has had about a 5 to 6% uptick in
Is that right?
sales in the last couple of years, but American Single Malt just got its designation.
Yeah, right.
And I'm wondering, did you know that was coming? Did you, or do you care about that? Or it's like, you know what, we're going to do our own thing. Because
You know what?
ASM is now taking off a little bit because it's...
This is, okay, first one was cherry. This one's straight. This one's straight malt whiskey. 100% malt in the grain bill. Okay, no, I'd love to say that I'm a brilliant visionary that went into malt whiskey before malt had its designation.
It was a softball for you. Like, yes.
I would be lying. Okay, that would be inaccurate reporting. No, I think what it is it starts with my taste profile. I'm going to make what I want to drink.
Yep.
And I'm going to make what I like. Okay, so that's one. And then two, it was do something different and stay out of the way of bourbon. And so I would say dumb luck. But I will also say, though, hang on. If malt's star is rising in a time when bourbon's star is falling, I've been waiting for the rum. I've been hearing that the rum star will rise. I think for about 13 years, I've been hearing that rum is going to be next, and rum is going to be next, and rum is going to be next. And it makes me suspicious. And we've been in the rum business for a long time. I've got a wonderful Province of Carolina rum that we make. And the rum star has never risen as it's been predicted. So therefore, I'm reticent to make a prediction that malt's going to go like a rocket. Or, I think right now, if anything, the opportunity, honestly, is probably to go buy other people's whiskey that is dirt cheap right now.
Yeah. That's
it's like you can buy whiskey for nothing now. It's like the bubble has burst.
It really has. There's probably a correlation between the a prediction of rum rising and the release of the first Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might be right.
You said 13 years. It feels like that's 13. It's probably going on 30 years.
Okay,
ago.
I got a rum story. I don't know how long. I don't know how long. Well, this could end up in the cutting room floor or you, whatever you decide. But here's the story. Okay, I'm making rum and I've got my roller bag and I go tasting, right? I get summoned to this craft cocktail place down in Charlotte. And this is like top of breed craft cocktail world. I pull in with my roller bag. I make an agricole rum right from a North Carolina, South Carolina sugarcane plantation on the state line. It's the only agricole in the state. It's 375 ml waxed bottle agricole. I've got the only guy who's got it.
Cool.
And I go in with my amber rum, which is at that time it was probably maybe 4 years on barrel, and I go in and I do my little talk, and there's a whole crowd of bartenders and beverage managers and the operators, and I say there's 3 kinds of rum. There's the British style, and then there's the French style, and then there's the Spanish style. And I characterize it as sort of like Spanish is in blends, and agricole, which means agriculture, comes like right from the crushed cane juice. The makers of rum like to fight about where, on the sugarcane processing line was your feedstock, right? I only use this brown sugar, and I prefer molasses, and this is what we sit around and argue about. And so the makers of rum and boom, and so there's 3 different styles. And so there's this little woman in the crowd who is obviously just, top of game, says, yeah, that's a nice little colonial, like white man's point of view. She was Hispanic. So that'd be, that's a nice little colonial point of view. But at the end of the day, there would have been one kind of rum on this side of the mountain and another kind of rum on the other side in the other valley. There would have been 1,100 kinds of rum, not 3. And I come home. I've been sort of spanked publicly at a tasting. Okay, so I got spanked, and I come home and I think, oh man, she must know. Like that must be right. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and so then I changed the story and I start telling everybody that, there's 1,100 different kinds of rum, and there'd be this Honduran rum and that kind of rum and this kind of, and okay, all these different styles of rum would have existed in the world.
Yep.
So I propagate that story, and then I went and got my blender's license. I started going into the blending of rum with other North Carolina craft guys because my rum on the wall is like 8 years old. I have one of the oldest barrel-aged rums in North Carolina and South Carolina, and I'm like, wow, I'm going to cut this with younger rums from other craft distilleries, right? So I go out and I start sampling and tasting and talking and negotiating and so on and so forth. And when I do that, I do this deep dive into rum and the history of rum, and it actually turns out that no slave trade, no rum. That is, no plantation of sugar.
Right.
Because you can't have a plantation without slaves.
Nope.
Okay, no plantation, no molasses, no rum. It's like, okay, the tiki culture, tiki torches?
Oh, yeah.
The whole Fiji, Pacific Islands. Okay, there's never rum from the Pacific Islands because they never had slaves in the Pacific Islands because they never had sugar plantations in fact, there is not one kind of rum on this side of the mountain and another kind of rum because it's only rum where there's sugar plantations. And actually there's 3, and that is who are the colonial powers that are trading in the slaves. It's either the Brits or the Spanish or the French. And
so you were right.
Yeah, I was totally right. It's like I went from getting like slapped into and believing it, thinking it's like, whoa, well, I'm just walking around with the colonial point of view. What am I? I'm an old white guy. I have the old white guy story. That makes sense. And it's like, wow, the world's changed and I don't know anything. It's like, well, wait, except for no, actually, she had that wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to me. It's like you need big sugar to have a co-product called molasses that is worth dumping into rum, which is a fungible commodity, which, will hold its value as you sail to Carolina.
Yeah.
And that's why rum, it was about a currency as much as it was for consumption purposes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so interesting. I've become recently a much larger rum drinker. I never really was. I've always been a Scotch, and then eventually got into more bourbon rye, especially as I did this show. But I found a lot more rum. And the episode that actually is currently playing just came out on Saturday. I talked to Muddy River.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
Yeah.
And they have a 12-year coming out soon.
Yeah.
It's just great stuff. But I'm starting to love my rum a lot more.
I know those guys. I've bought from Robbie. What has he been on your show yet?
The episode is currently playing.
Oh, the current playing is Muddy River.
I was just there 2 weekends ago, and I recorded.
Wow, so you're really cranking out the content here.
So I had a healthy backlog, especially because I had a 1-year-old, and before that, not here yet. So while my wife was pregnant, I was going out and just kind of filming, and then editing as I could, and then eventually my backlog got burned out. So I'm now just doing it when I can, and then releasing it as soon as possible. So it's a part-time job.
Yeah.
But the good part about this job is I get to drink, so it pays off. I tell my wife I'm on a business trip.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's great. Doing research. No, that's fun.
Have you heard of Pittsboro, which is a type of rum? It's Puerto Rican. So Pittsboro is the term for Puerto Rican moonshine, which is just unaged rum. And there's a place up in Maryland called Puerto Rico Distillery. Angel is, I forget his last name is escaping me, but he's from Puerto Rico, and he makes most of his rum. He sources some of it, but he just throws in a bunch of dried fruit. And then like a kiwi rum, a pineapple rum, or whatever. But it's actually the fruit, and all the color in the rum is from the fruit itself. There's nothing added to it. There's no added sugars.
Yeah.
It is delicious.
Oh.
And it's just fun, extra rum story. But
I made it to Puerto Rico once, and I did a tour of the Bacardi plant down there, and I did but I hit a little rum shop in Old Town, Puerto Rico, which I got a wonderful education in Puerto Rican rum and the Puerto Rican perspective on rum.
Yeah.
And because there's disparate views. In Jamaica, they have a different view of the product than they do in Puerto Rico, and different stories abound.
Well, and I didn't even know that Puerto Rico, I do now, and I feel like an idiot when I say it out loud, but I didn't realize Puerto Rico was the rum capital of the world. You think Jamaica, you think Jamaican rum, and that's where rum is made. I'm like, oh wait, Bacardi is made in Puerto Rico.
I know.
I didn't know that.
Well, and they fled Cuba.
Right.
So they were a Cuban brand before getting out of Castro's way.
Right.
So, yeah. And there's a woman that lives in Chapel Hill that owns the South American Bacardi assets.
Really?
Are owned by a woman in Chapel Hill. Uh-huh.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, so tell me, so you have two different rums? You have the blended.
I've got an amber rum, which I didn't get out of here. I've got an amber, and I've got that Province of Carolina rum. Those are the two rums that we've got, and then my whiskeys come and go. We try to keep like a few different varieties of whiskey on hand at all time, but the batches draw down. We make super small batches, so it's like less than 100 bottles is coming off the line, and we sell about as many gallons in cocktails as we do in bottles. So it's a lot of rum. A lot of rum and whiskey cocktails. It's a very big cocktail program down here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I will venture to have one after we're done recording.
Yeah.
But this is awesome. I love the Cherrywood more, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
But I love American Single Malt. I love malty, chocolatey espresso notes.
Okay.
I've come to, I'm a Scotch guy. So I love what America's doing with the Scotch recipe, with a different climate and different things, different yeasts. But I just love that flavor profile. This is very good. So kudos to you for making malt. I love that more than I love bourbon and rye. There is a distillery out in Los Angeles that, not the one I was telling you about off camera, but they make a high malt bourbon. It is 51% corn, 49% malted barley. And it's so interesting. Because I'm not the biggest bourbon fan. I like bourbon, but that's not my go-to. That bourbon I will drink every day because it has those malted barley notes that I want from a malted whiskey. Anyway, enough about me.
Okay.
No, Lyle, I really appreciate all the things you do. This is really cool. You are an example of craft because you're doing fun things. I mean, it's got to be fun. You have an awesome job. So,
yeah, it's a tough space to inhabit. The craft distillation space is a very tough business in North Carolina, and it's a difficult place to navigate. And also, we're also tied up into this project, the plant, which is a that's a big ship to turn on its own, right?
Right.
So.
But hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I will be back. You make some awesome stuff, and your story is awesome. I mean, nothing here tasted like biodiesel, so I think you figured it out.
Success. Well, thank you, Allan. Is that a wrap?
Yeah, it's a wrap. Thank you.
Okay.
If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate a follow and share on social media, subscribe to our YouTube, and be sure to give us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Everything you see and hear is out of pocket for us, including travel. If you support our mission of showcasing the amazing stories behind these small businesses, do me a favor and head over to buymeacoffee.com/craftedconvos. Buy Me a Coffee is an awesome way to help creators like me with simple one-time donations or a monthly contribution. Every dime goes into giving these breweries, distilleries, and more some much-deserved limelight. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. Cheers!
A special thank you to our supporters, The Bar Book, Distillery Products, and Virtue Feed and Grain. To learn more, please visit www.craftedconvos.com